Bit is the feminist queer vampire movie I did not know that I needed. This really good 2019 supernatural thriller directed by Brad Michael Elmore is heavily influenced by vampire mythology, features lesbian vampires, and stars a transgender main character who was played by a transgender actress, which is cool in and of itself. And with that, Bit boldly coats itself in feminist themes and combines gay representation with supernatural thrills. And as a result, the film simultaneously contains a strong thematic message about marginalized queer identity, all while presenting a truly entertaining thriller. It is quite terrific overall. Bit's excellency starts with its story. The plot follows Laurel, a young transgender woman who just graduated from high school and moves to LA in order to live with her brother Mark, a move that Laurel views as necessary so that she can embark on a fresh start in a new city now that she's presenting her authentic gender identity. But this plan is seriously altered when she meets a group of like-minded feminist women. Feminist women who were actually feminist vampires led by the girl boss who goes by Duke. And after a night of hanging out with these vampires, Laurel is turned into a vampire herself, which is a new position that she must become accustomed to. After all, she's joining a whole all-female vampire clan and must kill people and drink their blood. And add on some narrative curveballs that she must contend with later on in the film, and things get complicated and interesting very fast for Laurel. Bit is a really good movie, and much of this is due to how Laurel is a great character in and of herself. As a character, Laurel is very affable but flawed. She's polite and has a sense of right and wrong, but she also makes the types of mistakes that an 18-year-old would make, like drinking with strangers without any friends to back her up. And when she turns into a vampire, her personal miscues add up, which in turn increases the suspense and the audience's overall concern for the character. It is quite well done. Additionally, Laurel is great from a representation angle as well. As stated before, Laurel is a trans woman and is played by the trans actress Nicole Maines. And speaking as a transgender woman myself, it was really cool to see someone like me be the lead in a thriller in a genre film. After all, horror films and thrillers all too often villainize trans people and queer identity, but Bit flips the script. With Laurel, we see a trans woman through a humanizing lens. She goes through many of the same hurdles that real-life trans women must overcome, like concerned family members and fears that she might not be accepted in women's spaces due to her being trans, which is really damn relatable in real life for trans women hanging out with cis women, or when trans women try to use the ladies' room or try to get changed in the women's locker room at a gym. There's just a lot of insecurity there, and Bit, and by extension the character Laurel and the actress Nicole Maines, really portrays that internal conflict quite well here. Laurel just desires to feel like she belongs with a group of cool women and not be judged for her gender identity. She just wants to be one of the girls, and with that, I felt seen here. It is just really damn good representation. Laurel's need to belong also plays into a compelling narrative angle. See, Duke and the rest of the cabal of vampires murder a fair share of people, and even though they usually do target far-right chuds and domestic abusers, they still do murder a lot of innocent people. And this places Laurel in a moral bind. The woman simultaneously wants to be respected by her cool feminine vampiric peers, but Laurel also doesn't want to kill anyone even though she must feed for sustenance. She has a hard time murdering innocent people even though she needs to do it to survive. And honestly, this is a good conundrum that kept me engaged with the movie, because as a trans woman, Laurel finally found a cool group of women that she can belong with, but she must contend with whether or not losing her humanity is worth their acceptance. She must choose between what she wants and what is right, which really makes for a good conflict here. Furthermore, the character of Duke is a good antagonist that enhances Laurel's internal conundrum. As a character, Duke is cool and sympathetic and extremely likable, but she also displays some very villainous qualities. After all, her rule as the head of a coven is authoritarian-esque, she murders people without remorse, and her quote-unquote all men are bad philosophy is toxic even though we understand why she thinks that way. And honestly, Duke is a fairly deep antagonist, and credit to Diana Hopper's no-nonsense performance, we the audience understand why Laurel likes Duke, all while recognizing how Duke is in the wrong about many things. Duke is just a layered antagonist like that. Ultimately, Bit is a pretty great fantasy thriller film. It features great representation of the underrepresented transgender community, a relatable protagonist, a sympathetic antagonist, a lot of gore, and interesting feminist themes that are more inclusive than the film lets on. It is really good, and sure there are plenty of people who might roll their eyes at the prospect of watching a queer feminist vampire movie, but underneath its facade, Bit is well worth a watch. It has narrative and thematic teeth, so to speak. See ya. And with that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like rating, subscribe, ring the bell, share, and leave a comment telling me what you think of Bit and vampire stories in general. Also, please consider contributing to my Patreon page. The link is in the description. And speaking of Patreon, I just want to thank my patrons, especially my high tier ones in David, Samantha, Devlin, Mom, and Morgan. Thank you so much for supporting what I do. Love y'all.